Hey, comrades, go like, share, subscribe, comment, and we're going to talk about Chapter 6, Pilgrim, of Nikke's main story. So, from last we left in Chapter 5, we had just taken out the fortress and barged our way into it. Oh no, not barged away. We defeated the fortress that the Raptures had taken over, and we were working our way in. We're still with Ludmilla and Alice and the counters. So the security system here is still up, and it's running, so we cannot get in. Ludmilla mentions that she used to have a pass to get in, but it's been gone for a long time. And then Neon talks about how she's super convinced that she can get the door open by blasting it, but unfortunately she cannot. At that moment, we remember the card that Mustang gave us. We tell the girls that we have a card, and then to turn the card on, to activate it, to get in, we have to dance. The counters are like, hell no, but Alice and Ludmilla are like, fuck it, let's do it. So we do. We have a little dance party. The card activates, it starts to glow. We as the commander are like, Lord Christ, Mustang. This is super advanced technology. And then we open up when we get inside. Ludmilla leads us to a terminal and then instructs us how to use it, and then she starts to dictate what we should do. Ines gets super suspicious at this point, as she does, and asks if this whole thing's a trap. Ludmilla walks up to some random terminal that's not as important and touches it, and then it breaks and sputters and kind of explodes a little bit or whatever. We discuss what's going on. And she says she has no idea, but this is just ever since she became a Nikke, this is how things work. Like, machines just don't work. She can't use them. And then Alice chirps in, stating that she has to use all the machines. And this is why she makes the tea and the coffee and kind of takes care of things. And that, Alice and Ludmilla together are an excellent team because they make up for each other's flaws. So then Rappy's like, all right, I got this. So she goes up to the terminal, and Ludmilla directs her the passwords. We find the file that we need to open, and we get a map of the north. And this map has all the sightings of the pilgrims, the dates, the times, and it looks like it's a patrol route that is extremely consistent. So that we can kind of look and be like, okay, she should be here at this time because every time this is recorded, it seems like she's in this area. So it's time for us to rest before we head out to intercept her. Also, at this point, Ludmilla mentions that this pilgrim has a code name, Snow White. Ludmilla tells Alice that she should go with us and lay down. And then we question, what, why? And then, but then Alice is like, no, come on, let's go. You need to be warm and all this stuff. And then Rappy points out Alice's suit and says, hey, is that a warming suit because it's so cold up here? And Ludmilla explains that Alice actually runs super hot and that the suit is a cooling suit. She needs it to stay cool so she doesn't overheat. But because she naturally has so much heat, she just, there's heat radiates off her at all times. So if we lay down with her, we'll get that heat and then we'll be able to have a more comfortable sleep. So we lay down with Alice, and then it's so comfortable that we just pass out. The next day, Rappy wakes us up, and we mention that we feel excellent. We overhear Ines talking about the problem with communicating with the Ark, how they're still there's no alpha particles. Why can't we communicate the Ark? What's going on? There must be some other interference or something else going on. And then Ludmilla mentions that they have issues with communications here all the time, that it doesn't really make sense, or they don't really know. She mentions that maybe it's monsters or something. And then Alice at that point is like, can we go check on the sleeping princesses? And everyone's like, Nani? Ludmilla says, yeah, we shouldn't be talking about it. But then Alice is like, please, please, please. And the counters are like, yeah, let's go check this out. So what the sleeping princesses are, they're all bodies of Nikkes that are missing their brains. Alice takes us into this place and shows us around, and then Ludmilla sends Alice away to get milk and cookies so that she can explain to us what's going on. So after Alice leaves, Ludmilla explains that these Nikkes had their brains removed so that their brains would be safe while their bodies are under repair. So this facility is repairing these Nikke bodies, and their brains are stored somewhere else. And that some of these brains have been removed for a long time, so they're kind of like a stasis. They're not in the brain cages that run out of power and you have so many days or whatnot, which is an issue. These brains are stored in long-term storage. But because sometimes they're away for so long from their bodies while they're being fixed up, when they're placed back in the bodies, there have been a lot of cases of amnesia or asynchronization and stuff, and that even with all that, all of them have survived. And then the counters are pretty stunned. And Ludmilla's like, sorry for bringing you all here. And the counters say, no, this is we respect you so much for doing this. This must be really hard. And this is a great thing you're doing, and whatever. And so Ludmilla thanks them for being so gracious. She then mentions that there's been a lot higher cases of Nikkes lately not wanting to be saved, which is unusual. But at that, for several years, it's been going up. Up as in there's less and less people who want to be saved. As Nikkes. At this point, Alice returns, and she's like, oh, no, there's no milk or anything. And Ludmilla's like, why is there milk on your chin? And Alice is like, ah! Later on, we get ready and we're heading out. Ludmilla and Alice say their goodbyes. They're going to stick around here and keep doing their job and go rescue more Nikkes as part of their squad job. And now that they got their home back, it's going to make it even easier for them to help the sleeping princesses and help other Nikkes as well. Ludmilla does give us some advice about individuals from different walks of life and coming together and trying to understand and work together and stuff. It's like very kind of like generic, like good vibes advice, but it's good advice nonetheless. So we head out. Once we're out and we're hanging out at the checkpoint, Neon sees a figure in the distance. And then we all get quiet, and Rappy's about to shoot her. Neon questions why. Why are you going to shoot the... Isn't that the Pilgrim? Don't we need them? And then Ainz points out that there's no tracks in the snow because dun dun dun, it's a trap. At that point, the figure explodes, causing an avalanche. Rappy grabs onto us this time tight, and we try to run, or grabs our hand and tries to run, but then her arm gets snapped back, and she has to let go of us, and we tumble and get covered in snow. We start to pass out, and right as we're passing out, guess who shows up? Dun dun dun, Chatterbox. As we awake a little bit later, he is very pleased to see us. And this whole time, I guess he's just been chilling, waiting. We chit-chat a bit. He asks us some questions and demands that we be honest with him. And he mentions, are those imposters enhanced? And so he's talking about the counters. And by imposters, he's talking about how they're Nikkes, not humans. And we say yes. Then he asks where we're from, and we say the Ark. And then he asks us were we sick as a child? And then our response is, I believe so. Because, again, we've had that kind of premonition in previous chapters where it's like, where does the commander come from? He definitely was in the hospital. There definitely was something there. Anyway, Chatterbox seems to know a lot more than he leads on because he's very pleased with this response. He then picks us up and carries us off. Crazy. As he's running away or running to wherever he's running, we decide to distract him. So we convince him that he needs to put us down and go away because we have a bomb inside of us. And that we're going to set the bomb off if he doesn't answer a question. And then he's like, fine, I'll answer your question after some cajoling. And then we're like, no, we want 2 questions. Because we're a child. That's how children act. And he's like, fuck it, fine, whatever. And then we ask him if he set up the map that we found in the thing, and he's like, you bet I did. I tricked you so well. And then we ask about the mole in the Ark, and he's like, yes, there is a mole in the Ark. We try to ask a third question, but then at this point he's like, fuck you, I'm calling your bluff, you don't have a bomb. And then bam, he gets shot real good. And it's that mysterious Nikke again. She comes up and she tells us she's Snow White, right? So there she is, Snow White. She mentions it's been a long time. Oh no, we call her Snow White. And she's kind of stunned for a second, and she's like, oh, it's been a long time since anyone called me that. We ask for help, and she agrees, but she states that we have to keep quiet about everything that's going on until she finishes her mission. So we're like, yeah, that's totally fine. Chatterbox rolls back up, and Snow White kicks the shit out of him, and he starts begging for his life. Snow White thinks that it's towards her until he says, please, my queen, please forgive me. At that point, both of us like turn, and we see this heretic descending in like this big mecha fucking thing. And a heretic, it's kind of been mentioned before, but heretics are Nikkes that joined up with the Raptures. So like a mix between a Rapture and Nikke, essentially. And this is Modernia, and she's in her giant Rapture mech. She threatens Snow White, but then grabs Chatterbox and leaves, stating like, I would take care of you now, but I got to take care of this motherfucker first. And she summons a bunch of large Raptures who appear out of the ground near Snow White and I. And then Snow White, like the battle begins, and that wraps up chapter 6.